Welcome, everybody, to the Enterprise Fleet Summit. I am Thomas Watson, Enterprise Trucking Expert here at FreightWaves. Super excited to be having a fireside chat with Mr. Andrew Culhane. He is the Chief Strategy Officer at Torc. You may know them from autonomous vehicles. Going to be talking a little bit about the technology's impact and what it means for fleet growth. Andrew, super excited to be talking to you today. First, tell us a little bit about yourself and how Torc is fitting into the autonomous landscape.
Yes, sir. And a quick version about myself. I've actually been in Torc for over 15 years. I've been in this industry of self-driving and autonomous sort of since the beginning. And we're really excited in the last several years to kind of get our laser focus in on the trucking space with our partnership with Daimler Truck, with our close collaboration with Daimler Truck North America, working with that Freightliner Cascadia. And so that's sort of my background here. And, really in this space, super excited about the potential that autonomous trucking can provide to really boost, the supply chain, robustness, add some autonomy to that middle lane, kind of be able to help automate fleets today and make them more productive.
And I think that's a great point to talk about because having the backing of a large OEM, Cascadias are well known in the industry as well, not only by market share, but large fleets typically are purchasing large amounts of it. Tell us about how, especially how Torc fits in with the scheme of it. What's kind of one of the goals for developing the technology? Do we want to make sure that it's immediately straight out of the factory, or is this something where we're partnering up, we're testing, and then we're kind of adjusting as we go?
Sort of all of the above. So, first you start through the development cycle, right? You need to make sure that this product, this self-driving truck is safe from day one, right? And so a lot of that starts to have to do with how you integrate between the autonomous aspects and the chassis. I had the fortunate chance to sit down actually up in Boston yesterday with Joanna Butler and Suman, who lead up the Daimler Truck North America side. And that collaboration with them is so important to make sure that we're building this product together. So that's the first aspect. Then we start talking about the benefits of having a product that can come off an assembly line, right? You talk about reliability. You talk about maintenance being built into that Daimler Truck North America maintenance network. And then you get to the reliability aspects, right? Things that are hand-built, things that are custom, right? They're always going to be a challenge for reliability. And so there's so many benefits that come from that close collaboration between Torc and Daimler Truck. And those benefits should really show up to the fleets, the customers. And so that's what we're really excited about.
I think it feels like it's a tale of two cities with autonomous vehicle development. You have folks who have the backing of an OEM, they have the supply chain, they have the ability to fix it. And then you have other ones that are almost looking for a partner. They have this home brew, but they almost have to find a way to install it. Having the backing and stuff, if I'm a large fleet and I need to purchase about 2,000 of the 2,000 autonomous trucks, let's say in the future, what are the biggest things that I'm looking at when I'm looking to partner and looking to buy? Is that a big deal from feedback you're receiving so far with partnerships?
Absolutely. And you can take it down to all the, low-level tactical things of, after sales and maintenance and networks and all of those things. But I think you can boil a lot of it back to trust, right? You mentioned a lot of those large fleets, they buy a lot of Cascadias today. And there's a trust aspect there. And we're very fortunate at Torc to work so closely with the Truck North America folks, but also to put our own stamp on those relationships. We have our Torc Autonomous Advisory Council, and that's all about trust and transparency with the fleets that we're working with today. And so for me, it kind of starts with trust, but then it's deeper than that. It's trust that the product is well developed. It's trust that there's a support network for it. It's trust that that's going to be a long-standing partner. If somebody buys thousands of autonomous trucks, they don't want that company to be gone overnight, right? They want to know that that's an investment that's going to be there for a while. And we hope that that's how people view Torc in this industry.
I think the pilot programs are the really cool part. Schneider, CR England, large nationwide truckload carriers with the partnerships. Tell us a little about, not only about the two partnerships in particular, but what were some of the learnings from when, so to speak, the rubber meets the road, at least the autonomous rubber?
Yeah, I think, first off, and I always like to caveat this, we love those two. We're working with more folks, so expect more news to come. Penske supports us on the maintenance side of these trucks. That's another aspect of commercialization. That isn't just driving down the road, but maintaining them. Ultimately, from the pilot side, it is all about learning, right? It is learning how autonomy could fit into a freight ecosystem. It's learning how autonomy fits to how they engage, their shippers and their customers, right? Because at the end of the day, they have to move somebody's goods, and we're just a part of that journey. but figuring out how to plug in. What does that look like from a launching and a recovery perspective? How do we do basic stuff like give them updates, check calls on where these vehicles are going down the road, and thinking through every little aspect. I was, sort of joking, right? Because one of the big differences in the autonomy space, robo-taxi is a very easy transaction, right? Go on an app, pick me up, drop me off. You guys in the fleets know far better than I do. All the logistics that went moving trade, bills of lading, you deal with all the regulatory, all these other aspects that we need to make sure we handle. And it's more than just the technology, right? The technology is a critical part. But all of those other lessons learned, and again, a lot of them are operational lessons, not technology. We might be coming at technology ones too, but for us, that operational side of what's going to take to fit in the market and really have a product that the fleets can use, that again improves their efficiency. They understand it like they would understand any new technology coming into the space.
I think that's really cool. Talking not only trust, but the operations. Like I saw some examples of autonomous vehicles, how to handle a tire blow. And some of the testing was actually they made a truck run over and have its tire blow at a certain time, and how the AI is able to handle it and how it's able to maneuver itself, especially also weigh stations and everything else. Is that some of the nuts and bolts that the fleets are giving you feedback on? Because it feels like half the battle is making sure it goes from point to point, but the other half is everything that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of the conversations we have with whether it's pilot customers or others. We have a lot of closed course tracks. So we tend to do things like, simulating events on closed course rather than on public roads, right? They obviously do happen on public roads and you have to react to them. But that's a lot of it. Hey, how would you handle this scenario? We always have conversations about, what would you tell your driver to do in this case, right? Because there's no driver now. And so that's always the interesting conversation of, if you had your best driver in that truck. And that's the way we always like to think about these trucks, right? We want them to drive as well as, the best CDL driver on their best day after their best night of sleep, best cup of coffee, right? What would that driver do in this situation? And it's everything from the normal driving situations all the way to the rare occurrences, the edge cases of what would the best driver do at this time. And so that's a lot of our conversations. We look at their driver training programs, their safety programs, and we want to make sure that we understand that because, those large, especially those large fleets, some of the ones you mentioned, they have amazing driver training, amazing safety programs. And, we have the ability to learn from those. And that's really where we're at, is we want to learn everything we can to put this best product in the market.
I think that's really cool. Looking at use cases as well. I talked about, I came from trucking. We almost tried to do like hub and spoke with actual people and assets, kind of like a poor person's LTL. But using a use case for autonomous, that's one thing that I'm hearing the words about the hub and spoke again, where right now we're using them from large hub to large hub and then using a driver for the local delivery. Looking at the use case, if I'm a fleet of 5,000 tractors, does my decision now become where do I need to position the autonomous relay nodes and then the local deliveries, or are we starting to think of full end-to-end?
No, we're still very much on that hub-to-hub model. And part of that has, again, I've been selling traffic for a long time, right, is, in this industry, finding the ways to, I'll say, manage complexity and get that initial product out the door, right? And so for us, we really, truly believe that hub-to-hub is the way to do that and to provide a tremendous amount of value. The way you've had in this conversation a lot is almost think of it as a flexible version of intermodal, right? Rather than thinking of it as one thing or another thing, it's sort of a new thing, right? And that's what we're going to use a lot of the pilots to look at is how would that work, right? What are those lanes? What are those lane segments that need to come together to make that flexible rail over the road, if you will, or other route of transporting between key market areas work? And then how do you position assets on either ends of those to do first and final? And when we think first and final, it's not always an hour, right? It may be a 4-hour turns where that driver, that manned truck can still be fully utilized and we can still get them home there, right? Or it's an out and back for the day. And so when we think first and final, we also don't always think, 10 miles down the road, right? We also think larger lanes that connect up.
And it feels like this was a cool, I had a conversation earlier about LTL and how, because I remember the hub and spoke, but LTL also likes to send out at specific times. I've got my 10 a.m. that goes to the hub, my noon, my 3 p.m. And I wonder if some of these large enterprise fleets that also have an LTL branch I kind of wonder if they're going across the cubicle, so to speak, and saying, "Hey, I mean, I got these autonomous trucks. I wonder if I should just schedule them because I can predict now the hours of service and stuff, and then have my drivers expect to hook to the trailer around this window." It kind of opens up trucking to a more modified instead of, "Hey, are you there yet? I expect you to be here, consistent."
Yeah, I mean, that's our hope, right? At the end of the day, everything's just a tool in the supply chain, right? And we really hope to provide a tool that adds more predictability, whether it's from scheduling, right? More ability to schedule across the whole 24 hours, right? Drivers not having to be up in the middle of the night, where we can have autonomous trucks driving then, they don't retire, right? And so we can help add some of that scheduling. Torc, in our long history, we actually have done work in the mining industry in the past. And one of the things that we worked with Caterpillar very closely on is on haul trucks. And they would see that scheduling, that predictability, improve overall operational efficiency and throughput, because you have to run less variable that you're trying to manage. And so that's sort of our hope here. And that variable could be on timing. It could be on predictive maintenance for scheduled downtime. So there's a lot of other goodness on that predictability that we expect autonomy will fill in on those ones.
That's a great point. Looking at dry bulk, I think that we think of autonomous trucks for like dry van, OTR, typical, either semi-random or point-to-point. But for areas where I'm going in a mining or a shale field, does that open an opportunity where these are less traversed roads? We can build out a network to where it can read it. Is that another potential opportunity for folks in the energy department for their transportation fleets? Because there's thousands of trucks that also do bulk. We just don't, at least in traditional coverage, we always like to focus on the consumer commodities and not the bulk commodities in energy.
Yeah, certainly there's an opportunity for that down the road. We talk about hub to hub and keeping it well constrained. We also want to think about that from a goods perspective. And once we, I'll say, conquer those lanes, extend it out. But anything that's regular, predictable, similar, right? Those are those things that make autonomy shine. And so we want to make sure that we're targeting those best applications in the industry.
And kind of going back to the second topic here, looking at the impacts of these pilot programs, what are some of the early feedback you're able to give? What were some of the thoughts with fleets? To preface it, for a lot of executives we've talked to in channel checks, they're testing out the stuff, but I do wonder how far along are we in terms of adoption, or if there's anything you can share in terms of success stories as well.
Yeah, so we're talking really about adoption. This came out yesterday, 2 days ago, on Daimler Truck's Capital Market Day. Was the announcement that we, Torc, and Daimler are targeting scales and start production in 2027. We've always been very realistic about our timelines. We've been always very realistic about what it's going to take to safely get there. And so when we're looking at it right now, it's really about the learnings to get us there, right? What are those key lessons learned? What are those key operational takeaways? And really just kind of bringing everybody on that journey together. Autonomous isn't like anything else that really has been introduced. It's not a new transmission. It's not a new engine. It's not a new powertrain. It's actually just a different mode of operation. And so that's going to have so many impacts. Everything from how it plugs into TMS to how the mechanics can work on it, right? And those are those things that we spend a lot of time with them is, okay, let's look at the skills of your mechanics today, right? Ignore the autonomy, all that piece. Let's just talk maintenance for a second. What is it going to take to maintain one of these? What does that look like from a service department? Do I have a huge gap in trainings that I should do? And all of those other things we start to look at with that. Because at the end of the day, the general feedback is, look, guys, making the autonomous trucks, that's Torc's job, right? Building it, that's Daimler's job. Well, what about operating it? And they're thinking in their heads, okay, well, I operate equipment, and I maintain equipment. I run a fleet. All of those skill sets that they have, we want to learn from and make sure that we're building the systems, whether it's on mission control, whether it's on sensor calibration, to make these usable, scalable products for them and not just really cool tech.
I'm definitely excited to see how it goes. Final question here. Let's say I'm a CEO of a large trucking company between 5,000 to 20,000 trucks. I've got an established relationship, of course, but I know that in the next 4 years, we may see these things rolling off the line. What should I be preparing to tell my management team or my folks that this is coming? Like, is there anything I really need to know about coming up? Because it feels like 4 years, based on the investor day and stuff, that's going to be a blink in the terms of how trucking moves.
Yeah, I think the first one, and I'll say this from Torc side, is we want to have those discussions early. So we always try to make sure we're engaging the industry. We always try to be very comfortable with what we know. Right? We know what time we know how to work very closely with Daimler. They know how to build world class trucks. Those are the folks that know the industry. So first, engage in the conversations, reach out. We want to have that dialogue. And the second is this is going to be a process of scale. And so, again, this industry so wide, it's prospects that, all of a sudden, and either it's driving those trucks every lane and all that, our realistic view is that's going to take time to scale. And we're going to work to make sure we're working on the most critical lanes. We're identifying the most important problems to solve. And so from their perspective, we're thinking about, if they had this, what would be the ideal lane or lanes for autonomy? How would that look like from, if they're running all over regular route truckload today, are there dense lanes that they could use this on, or is it just not going to be a fit for a while for them? Those are honest conversations we want to make sure we're having. As you mentioned, right? Not everybody runs into some dumb model, not many people. And so how do we start getting me to think about that and plan toward that in the future?
Well, it feels like a paradigm shift, and it's very exciting as well. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. If folks want to learn more about Torc or try to set up a meeting and partner up, what's the best way to reach out?
Reach out to me directly, either through the Torc website, LinkedIn. I'm easy to get a hold of. Really looking forward to conversations.
Thanks so much, Andrew. We're going to be keeping an eye on the developments with Torc as well, and especially the paradigm shift going on in trucking. That's a wrap for this fireside chat, though. Stay tuned. We have a lot more content coming up.